This episode of Inside Golf Podcast is brought to you by Inside Sports Network. A great week at the Masters, obviously. Super humbled by all of the support that we received this week and the content that we put out. I feel strongly at this point that as far as the golf course conditions go, and certainly ownership, you're not going to find a place that is laying out better information. And with how much the company has humbly been able to grow, I do think that you are at a disadvantage now if you are not using this ownership and course conditions. Holy shit, there were some decisions from the Masters that I really wish I had back. And we are going to recap a couple of the big negatives and mistakes for me. I mean, some inexplicably dumb decisions that we will talk about. But one thing I will have, my biggest Vic lap of the week, through 3 rounds, scoring average prediction is within 1/10 of a shot. And my delta on Rory, Scotty, and Colin ownership was 0. That's right, 0. I correctly predicted the exact ownership of Rory, Colin, Scotty. And for the entire slate, the only player that I did not have a delta over 4.5% was I projected Corey Connors at 16.5, and he came in at 22%. What are you going to do? There's always going to be a guy that catches some late steam at the 11th hour, but I think we continue to put out the best ownership. So if you're serious about playing DFS, you should be using this ownership, and we would love to have you as part of this community. Okay. I'm proud of the ownership. I'm very proud of identifying how the golf course is going to play, but let's spend some time on the L's. I think my biggest mistake that I wish I had back, Justin Thomas was just a bad bet. I cannot fucking believe that I fell for that shit. And to have that much conviction on JT, I mean, he was the biggest bet I made of the week at 25-1. And he was a core play for me in DFS. And holy shit, was that costly. It basically ruined my entire week. And I understand why I did. He was checking a lot of trend and recent form and course fit boxes that I was looking for. I loved his course history at the Masters, and also the fact that he didn't contend seriously last year. I loved his recent approach play. I loved his recent short game numbers. And my ability to trust him around the greens. He was starting to putt so much better too. We were finally starting to see that JT putting upside where he's gaining enough on the greens to spike and win a golf tournament. I thought the driving corridors were wide enough on this golf course for him to not shoot himself in the foot off the tee. And I've had a lot of success with JT at majors in the past. I was on him at Southern Hills. But what I truly failed to realize is that the biggest piece of evidence that we have over the last 2+ years is that this is not a serious player that has shown the ability to put 4 rounds of golf together. There have been flashes of brilliance in there that are going to seduce you like they seduced me. But at the end of the day, he has not cut out the mistakes from his game. I mean, he made 3 bogeys on Thursday, 3 bogeys on Friday, and 7 bogeys on Saturday to go along with 6 total birdies and 1 eagle. And his round yesterday on Saturday, where he essentially shut the door for me on 2 really good 6 of 6s, shut the door on a backdoor top 20. It was just a really costly mistake for me, and I wish I had that one back. Another big regret for me, another big L for me, Taylor Pendrith. I had a lot of good calls at the bottom of the slate. I was super heavy on Davis Thompson, Benny On, and Sung Jae, but I decided to go with Pendrith as a core play over those guys, and holy shit, did that murder me. Again, I understand why I did it. I still believe that Augusta is going to be a very good golf course for Pendrith in the future. I mean, if you don't understand why Pendrith should play well at Augusta, I would lead you to look at what Bryson is doing, right? And Pendrith is essentially a B minus to C version of Bryson's skill set, where he murders the ball off the tee and can gain a significant advantage with this driver. He's a great long iron player, and he's an awesome lag putter with a ton of putting upside, but he also has a very shaky short game. I mean, it's literally just the C version of Bryson, and exactly why you see Taylor Pendrith play so well at a golf course like Memorial Park, by the way, which is the most Augustified comparison you can find right now on the PGA Tour, where it's just super wide driving corridors, very long golf course, and soft with a bunch of long irons, particularly this year. Big undulating green complexes and short grass everywhere. And Pendrith has such a tremendous advantage on these golf courses because he can use his power to gain a significant advantage off the tee. He's an awesome, awesome lag putter, and has the ability to navigate those big green complexes where you can just putt often from off the green. I think what I may have overrated perhaps is that he was a debutante. And I kind of fell into this trap that basically every year, 3 debutantes always finish top 20. Um, so I think there's a misnomer that debutantes don't or can't play well at Augusta. But over the last 5 years, 3 have finished in the top 20 every single year, with Zalatoris and Ludwig actually finishing runner-up as debutantes in 2 out of the last 4 years. And this year, you still have your 3. Nico Echevarria, Davis Thompson, Matt McCarty are all in the top 20 heading into the final round, with actually, to be honest with you, Max Grazerman, Rasmus Højgaard sitting at T21, and Michael Kim and Maverick McNeely at T25. So there's actually a possibility that we get 5 or 6 debutantes finishing top 20. I think a couple of them are going to go backwards today, but we're probably at least going to get to 2 or 3 again. So the lesson probably isn't to not play debutantes that make sense as a course fit. But holy shit, Pendy just didn't have it this week. He lost 3 strokes around the green and 2.5 strokes putting. And man, that cost me. I should have highlighted Davis Thompson or Benny On as the core play there, as both also exemplify the skill set that I was looking for. Tons of power off the tee, long iron upside, and either great around the green or tremendous lag putting skill. And man, I wish I had that one back, because the Pendy core murdered me. Really, really cost me. Big mistake. Big mistake for me, number 3. And this will be the last one. But I think people like an autopsy on DFS decisions, by the way. I have had multiple people reach out to me and say, you should do more of this, either on the Sunday pod or the Monday live show that you do with RB, where you recap some of the decisions that did and didn't work out. I think it's fun to talk about, and I'm always comfortable with why I made the decisions and the process. And I'll always have the opportunity to Vic lap a lot of things every week. So I think it's important to try and analyze the mistakes too. And the other big one for me that is going to murder me, I got sucked into Hideki this week, and he fucking destroyed me. And now I'm generally not a Hideki guy. I don't play him a ton. I don't bet him a ton. He was responsible for my best week ever in DFS that year that he won the Sony Open. But I also do think he's generally a very difficult golfer to predict, and you always, always want to play Hideki on the weeks where he's flying in under the radar. I mean, all three of his most recent wins, Memphis, Century Tournament of Champions, and Riviera, he was actually not playing the most amazing golf heading in, certainly not playing any better golf heading into those wins than the golf that he's playing right now. And I actually remember last year with Hideki, he was super popular at the Masters. He entered last year's Masters playing some great golf. He had won Riviera. He was in great form. Obviously, he checked the course history box. He checked the every other year box. I remember he was on the tips chart and very popular in DFS. And I was like, okay, these are the exact times when you want to avoid Hideki like the plague. But this year, he was flying in under the radar. He was still checking every box that you would be looking for in terms of he'd already won this year in 2025. He'd already played some great golf this year. Great recent major success. He also played awesome at Pinehurst recently, and outside of the success at Augusta, he'd been playing quite well in the majors recently, particularly at US Opens. Didn't contend in a major way last year, but obviously has a phenomenal track record at Augusta. And man, I thought 8%, 35-1. I was like, I think I'm the sharpest fucking man in the room with that play. And holy fucking shit, did he take a giant nuke to my DFS lineups this week with a 79 that he shot yesterday. Like, I cannot begin to tell you how badly JT and Hideki combining to shoot plus 11 yesterday absolutely destroyed my 6 of 6s that were, solidly anchored around Colin, Jason Day, Sung J.M., Davis Thompson, Benny On, Harris Inglis, etc. And Hideki and JT yesterday just absolutely ended them. So anyway, Pendy, Hideki, and JT, just 3 decisions that totally broke my week. And while I understand why I made them and felt like I did a good job of explaining why I made those decisions, but holy shit, do I wish I went in a different direction. There are a lot of other DFS takes that I have, and things that I thought were surprising, interesting, stuff to pay attention to for next year. But I'm going to do my usual Masters recap show with Kyle. We might actually go live at 7:30 p.m. Eastern before the Hold the Green guys on our YouTube channel. So Kyle and I can recap more of this, some of the bigger surprises and disappointments from the slate. Look at the lineup that ended up winning the Millie Maker, what the optimal building strategy was. But for me, the big L's that I wanted to recap, really happy with the ownership and course conditions. And there were a lot of positives for me on this slate, but holy shit, Pendy, Hideki, and JT nuked me this week. So we can dive into more of the recap stuff with Kyle this evening, but let's talk a little bit of Rory Bryson. I'm recording this early on Sunday morning. It's about 7:30 a.m. Pacific time, 4 hours before the leaders tee off. And I got to say, you know, I told myself with Rory at the Masters after last year, look, I will never not believe that he has the ability to do this. I just think that he is too generationally great that one of these days it just has to happen. But I can no longer allow myself to expect it. I can no longer allow myself to think it's going to happen or predict that it's going to happen. And if it does happen someday, then I will be pleasantly surprised. But I cannot do the emotional roller coaster anymore where these last 3 times for me, Rory at St. Andrews, Rory at LACC, and Rory at Pinehurst, where I was just so emotionally invested in him getting it done. And I mean, you can ask my girlfriend. I think she still has PTSD from how I handled Rory blowing it at Pinehurst. Like, I was just speechless. I was a fucking wreck. And I don't even think that that was his most heartbreaking loss for me. Like, I wanted him to win at St. Andrews even more than I wanted him to win at Pinehurst. But I told myself after Pinehurst, you have to emotionally remove yourself from expecting him to do this, because all of the evidence that you have over the last decade is that it's going to end in disappointment. And the more you get your hopes up, the darker the come down is going to be when he inevitably lets you down. And man, even taking to account all of this and remembering all of those heartbreaks and difficult times, I just don't think I am a strong enough person, I suppose, in the sense of holding true to my word there, because I fell completely back in with all the fucking emotions yesterday. I mean, I was hanging on and living and dying with every single shot. It was one of the most electrifying rounds of golf that I have ever watched him play. And by the end of the day, I was like, holy shit. Yeah, he's fucking winning this thing. He is going to get his revenge on Bryson from Pinehurst. I believe this deep in my bones that he is going to drop his giant nutsack on Bryson today and slay the dragon and finally get the monkey off his back. And I think back to all of the times, especially just thinking about watching him at Augusta last year with my dad, because Rory has always been my dad and I's favorite golfer, and getting to watch him around Augusta last year, particularly in that Wednesday practice round where it felt like it was just, me and him and Ludwig on the golf course on Wednesday afternoon when a lot of the other players and patrons were at the par 3 contest. And just watching how good he looked and getting our hopes up, and then watching, him step up to the first tee on Thursday and it just feeling like all of the air got sucked out of the room with one drive, and watching those hopes just get crushed. And those final rounds at St. Andrews and LACC and Pinehurst, where I believed so strongly that he was going to do it, and getting my heart broken and telling myself I'm done believing it can happen. But after watching him play this golf course this week, watching the ball striking, watching the course management, watching how he continues to build these rounds and never get too high or too low, aggressive swings to conservative targets, picking his spots, using his power to take advantage in certain spots, and playing with a lot of confidence, like he is the best player on the property, because he is. And now I have fully allowed myself to believe somehow once again that he's going to take it down today. And I am fully not ready to get my heart broken again. And if he doesn't take it down today, whew, then I kind of give up, man, because this is the most in control of his golf swing. I shouldn't say I give up, because I will never give up, with this week being evidence of how easy it is to allow myself to believe again. But this is the most in control of his iron swing I have seen in as long as I can remember. This is some of the best approach play, and I talked about that's the major key for him this week. We can count on him to wield a significant advantage off the tee. He is a very underrated short game, and I'm confident in his ability to at least play well enough around the greens and putt well enough to keep himself in the tournament. Whether he goes on to spike and win it, all comes down to the approach play. And that was the report that we got this week from our coverage on the grounds, is that in the practice rounds, Rory was just apparently playing so aggressively and firing at pins, but not stupidly, right? Like, he is playing aggressively in the sense that he knows that right now he is the best player in the world and the best player on property this week. And if he performs to his baseline, then he should win this golf tournament more times than any other player in the field outside of maybe Scotty. If you played this golf tournament 1,000 times, the way that Rory is playing right now, he should win this golf tournament more than any other player on property. And of course, that's not how golf works, but that's the confidence that Rory should be entering every single major with. You know, fuck the 10-year drought, fuck the Augusta Demons, fuck the mental block. Screw all of those narratives. The advantage that Rory has on this golf course based on his ball striking is higher than any other player in the field right now. And the only thing preventing him from slipping on a green jacket is himself. I think if Rory goes out and shoots 68 today, he wins this golf tournament, no questions asked, because that would require Bryson to shoot 66 today. And as well as Bryson is playing, and as afraid of him as I am, I don't think a 66 is out there today. And even if Rory shoots 70 today, 2 under par, you know, make 16 pars and 2 birdies on 4 of the par 5s. That would require all of this is just if he shoots 70. That would require all of the players at 6 and 5 under to shoot a 64, 65. And that's just not out there on this golf course right now. You know, if you look at this group of players at 6 or 5 under par, one of them is going to go out today and play very well. My hope is that it's either Shane Lowry or Jason Day. That would do the most for my wallet. But one of those guys, and certainly somebody at 3 or 4 under par too, but one of those guys is going to go out and shoot a really good score today and apply some pressure. But I just think that the way that the golf course is playing, that it's just really hard to envision anything better than a 65 or a 66. Even if the low round of the day is a 67, that wouldn't shock me. There were only 3 guys yesterday that shot better than 3 under par. And so even if one of those guys goes low and shoots a 65 or a 66, that would put one of those players at like 11, 12 under. So there's even a real argument that Rory can probably shoot even par today and still win the golf tournament. I hope it doesn't come to that. And they usually set the golf course up a little bit easier on Sunday with a couple funnel pins. But the broader point is there's no excuse and no reason for him to lose if he just plays to his baseline. And yes, of course, Bryson scares me, but this isn't Bryson at Pinehurst right now. Like, Bryson is losing strokes on approach. He's not even dominating off the tee like normal Bryson either. Like, I think Bryson's driver this week has looked well below Bryson's baseline. Bryson is not hitting the ball right now close to as well as he was hitting it at Pinehurst or Valhalla. He just doesn't have his best stuff this week. He is in this position on sheer willpower and the fact that he ranks top 5 in this field and putting in around the green play. And that's what makes Bryson's position all that more impressive, is that Bryson hasn't even remotely had his best stuff this week, and he has still beaten everybody in this field not named Rory, which says to me, like, okay, this is at worst the third best player in the world. Okay. Like, enough with Neiman, enough with Rahm, enough with Colin. I would say the only player that deserves an argument as the third best player in the world right now, if you're not saying Bryson, is probably Xander, given the fact that Xander is still holding 2 out of the last 3 majors, and Xander is clearly trending back up after the injury. And I think it's a pretty safe bet that we'll likely hear from him a lot more for the rest of the year. But Bryson is such a fucking beast. And the fact that he is solo second right now, losing significantly on approach, he needs to be the third favorite at Quail Hollow and Oakmont. He needs to be the third favorite. Okay. It goes Rory, Scotty, Bryson. That's how the odds board needs to look at a modern PGA Championship or US Open venue. It needs to be Rory, Scotty, Bryson, and then everybody else. Probably Xander fourth, Morikawa, Ludwig fifth and sixth, and Rahm fifth and sixth. If I was making, this is what I would make the market personally. I'm not talking about what the market is, but how I would make the market for Quail Hollow right now personally. Rory plus 550, probably. You have to, I mean, regardless of what happens today, Rory at Quail Hollow, especially if he wins today, I think will be the favorite over Scotty. And, I don't think that you can, Scotty needs to drop a little bit not winning at these prices. I mean, that's what happens when you're 4-1, 5-1, and you're not winning every 4 or 5 tournaments. I think Scotty drops to 7-1, but I don't think you could drop him much higher than that. It's not like he's playing badly. And then to me, it has got to go Bryson number 3 at 12-1 or 14-1. I think there's still 17 or 18s or 20-1s on Bryson at the US Open and Quail Hollow. And I mean, I don't know. I'm not a huge futures guy, but I would make him the third favorite right now at like 12 or 14-1. And then I would probably put Xander fourth at 16-1. And then I would probably put Colin fifth at 20-1, who just continues to play tremendous golf and is, like I said, the Xander Schauffele of last year, where, he's continues to go off at very low prices because you can't drop him very high on the odds board because his top 10 percentage is so freaking high. And I do believe and hope that Colin is going to, I think he's sitting at like T15 right now. And I'm expecting him to finish top 10 or at worst maintain his position on the leaderboard. And then I would put at like 22-1 Ludwig Rahm. I don't think that you can make Rahm below 20-1 at majors right now. You can't do it. You can't do it. I'm not saying like I'm dropping Rahm into the fucking 30s or even 25 to 1, but you cannot put Rahm lower on the odds board than Bryson anymore. I don't care if Rahm's top 10 percentage at on live is higher than Bryson's top 10%. It doesn't matter. We now, over the last 2 years, Bryson has been demonstrably better in major championships than John Rahm. Demonstrably better. Okay. So I would put, and I know Ludwig may close as the third favorite as Quail Hollow. Quail Hall. People love Ludwig. I tend to be a little bit lower on Ludwig than the market, but I would put Colin 20, Ludwig Rahm 22 to 1. And, and I mean, for Bryson to be doing this when I still think the next two major golf courses in Quail Hollow and Augusta are even better fits for his game, that's pretty scary. And as scary as he is, I still fully believe that Rory's going to do it. And I've completely given in to letting myself believe that it's going to happen. And man, if it happens, I mean, back when I was even more emotionally invested in this, who am I kidding? I'm just as emotionally invested now as I ever was. I had so many bookmarked Rory tweets from people dunking on him after the near misses. So fucking many that I just saved because I can never not believe that it's going to happen. And I thought those people were going to be proven very wrong. And who knows, if I'm feeling frisky, I may dive into some of those bookmarks this afternoon. Or if he blows it, you may never hear from me again. I'm just kidding. I will 100% own the fact that I fell for it again. And Rory, win or loss, amazing round of golf today or total choke job. Kyle and I will recap all of it on the channel no matter what. But holy shit, man, I have not been this excited for a final round in a long time. And this is just about as good as it gets if you are a golf fan, in my opinion. I'm trying to not let the golf history stuff cloud my judgment and get ahead of myself. But if he does happen to get it done, I'll bring Porter on and we will provide the historical context and significance of what that entails. But Rory essentially has the ability today to become one of the 10 most accomplished players to ever play the sport. One of the 10 most accomplished players to ever play the sport. Or it becomes another story in one of the most heartbreaking careers in modern sports history. Regardless of outcome, I truly don't think you could script a better final pairing for golf fans. And, hopefully it comes to fruition. And if it doesn't, we'll certainly have something to talk about, right? So speaking of which, this is a heritage podcast after all. So let's take a quick break and then dive into the heritage. Okay, we are back. RBC Heritage, the good old sleepy signature event on a very easy golf course the week after a major. We have it with the Travelers the week after the US Open, and we have it with the Heritage the week after the Masters. I have mixed emotions and feelings about that model. I don't love this golf course as a signature event. I think that the Heritage is at its best when you have 150 players in the field and guys like Brian Harmon and Billy Horschel and Russell Henley and JT Poston. It's like the Wyndham or the Sony Open, right? Like those golf courses have a very, very specific identity and cater to a very specific player. And they're the type of golf tournaments that you would like to see those players winning and competing at against each other year after year, just like we see at the Sony Open or Sedgefield. But last year, you have it the week after the Masters. Scotty Scheffler comes in after winning the Masters. I had Cantlay and Straka, and Scotty just drops his giant sack on the entire field, um, in what you would expect to be like the most all-time forgivable, understandable letdown spot. And that win at the Heritage last year, I would argue, was still one of, I mean, I don't know, he won 8 times last year, and obviously winning the Players and the Masters are number 1 and number 2 as the 2 most impressive wins. I would put Heritage probably 3. And so last year you had Scotty Scheffler win at 19 under par over Sahith Theegala. The scoring average is minus 1.65. So this is the easiest last year that the golf course had played in a number of years. In the last 5 years, this is the easiest scoring average that you've had since Webb Simpson in 2020. And I was at that golf tournament last year, both for the practice rounds and for in tournament. And it was pretty soft. You know, the greens were super, super receptive last year. They had received some recent rainfall in the area. So when this golf course is playing soft and there's no wind, with modern technology being the way that it is, there's just no defense for this golf course whatsoever. It's essentially pick whatever club that you want off the tee to set up the right number that you have on approach. And it is, you know, 19ish to 22 under when it is soft and you don't have a lot of wind. And that's what we saw last year. This year, we can talk about the weather in a second, because I do think that it's going to bounce back a little bit in terms of scoring average and play a little bit harder, at least, than it did play last year, because there's no rain tournament week that I'm seeing right now in the forecast. So the golf course should have some time to firm up, hopefully, over the next couple of days leading into tournament week. Because I actually think that this golf course presents itself in a much more engaging way if it's firm and fast, right? Or at least trying to be firm and fast. I like Harbor Town a lot as a golf course. I think that modern technology has passed it by, in terms of, like, it is a very claustrophobic, narrow golf course. Like, being on property last year, it's really tight. Like, visually, if you don't have control over your golf ball, it's a nightmare to play, because it seems like every single tee shot you are hitting to these very narrow driving corridors with overhanging tree limbs on both sides. So sometimes, even if you barely miss the fairway, you know, you could look up and you have an overhanging tree limb that is blocking your view to the green. And so to make it on the green, you have to, you have to play a big cut or a big drop. You have to shape the ball a little bit. And that's why, this has historically been, players have always described this place as like a very awesome shot maker's golf course that requires a lot of creativity. Now, when the golf course plays soft with no wind, you can throw that out the window. It's basically just a dart throwing contest between 100 and 200 yards for these guys. But it is overseeded again. The golf course didn't used to be overseeded back in the day. And what do you know? It played a lot more difficult when there was actually a rough penalty. But it's in Hilton Head, South Carolina. Shout out Kyle. Designed by Pete Dye in 1969 and Jack Nicklaus. So it's one of Pete Dye's first, like, big major design efforts. And still to this day, one of the best pure designs that he has ever created. It's tough for the golf course to keep up now with technology, given how short it is. And a lot of those tee shots for pros that back in the day when there wasn't so big of a driver head and there was a little bit less control over the golf ball, it's a really difficult ball striking golf course. Now, it's not a very difficult ball striking golf course because players are so long at this point that the approach shots, they know that they can hit less than driver off the tee and take pretty much whatever club they want off the tee. And they're still going to have a short to middle iron approach shot. Bermuda grass overseeded with perennial ryegrass fairway measuring 30 yards wide on average. Celebration Bermuda grass overseeded with perennial ryegrass rough, 0.75 inches. So basically, it's the exact same rough that we've seen at, basically Augusta, to be honest, but Houston, Valero, Cognizant, even like Valspar is Valspar, they actually let it grow. But in terms of the surface, agronomy wise, it's that overseeded army again, where, you know, there's just no missed fairway penalty on this golf course off the tee. I looked at it last year, and the missed fairway penalty last year was it ranked 36 out of 43 courses. In each of the last 5 years, it is ranked in the bottom 5 lowest missed fairway penalties on the PGA Tour. Also ranked 33rd out of 43 courses in rough penalty, 25th out of 43 courses in non-rough penalty, and 29th out of 43 courses in percentage of missed fairway drives that result in a penalty stroke. So, in my opinion, and we'll talk about the kind of the skill set breakdown that I'm looking for. But this is not a golf course where you can generally wield a significant advantage off the tee. This golf course, very much like Sedgefield and Waialae and TPC Sawgrass, right? In many ways, this is just an easier version of TPC Sawgrass with less water, where driving accuracy at Heritage actually is so much less correlated with success than TPC Sawgrass because of the amount of water and hazards that make big misses penalized at TPC Sawgrass so much greater than small misses. And the deal with the Heritage, I know that people are going to probably look at this golf course and say that this is a golf course where accuracy matters tremendously. And it really just doesn't. If you dive into the numbers, off the tee is largely devalued here. It's really a golf course where players just club down to pick their preferred spot in the fairway. And the real way to separate on this golf course is through approach play and putting. Over the last 5 years, driving accuracy has actually been less correlated with success than distance. Last year, Cantlay, Sahith, and JT all finished top 5 in the tournament, ranking outside of the top 50 in driving accuracy. Whereas, distance didn't really play a role in determining the outcome of the tournament either. But 5 of the top 8 players last year ranked top 20 in distance, and only 4 of the top 8 players ranked top 20 in accuracy. I still think in theory, I would look to identify players that consistently find the fairway over those who display elite distance. Like, if you're making me choose between the two about whether this is a distance or accuracy golf course, it is still in theory and historically, I would rather have you be straight on this golf course than long. But accuracy, being able to hit a gazillion fairways, has not been remotely as correlated as you would think at this golf course. In 2023, only one player in the top 6 ranked top 40 in driving accuracy. And this is all evidence that suggests now that players are like looking at the very low missed fairway penalty due to the overseeded rough, and they're just finding whatever spot they want with less than driver and not getting penalized. Scotty led the field and off the tee last year, but both Fitzpatrick and Spieth the prior year ranked outside of the top 30 in strokes gained off the tee and outside of the top 50 in driving accuracy. So to me, this is more of like a total driving golf course and looking at how players have performed on similarly short golf courses with a low miss fairway penalty. But this is all about approach play and putting on this golf course. Just that would be the biggest difference between this golf course and Sawgrass, is that Sawgrass is all about accuracy off the tee and approach play. The Heritage is less about accuracy off the tee. Off the tee in general is devalued, and it's more about approach play and putting. Okay. Approach play and putting, just like so many of these short positional golf courses that you see every single year. Waialae, RSM, Sedgefield, TPC River Highlands. I mean, I will tell you right now, I think the 7 best golf courses that I'm really looking at as the most similar to this overseeded version of the Heritage: Sawgrass, Colonial, Sea Island, Innisbrook, even though the rough is a little bit higher than Innisbrook. Innisbrook is a very much a Carolina golf course with those overhanging tree limbs. And, there's no giant miss fairway penalty in terms of like if you miss big at either of those places, but it's really just about keeping it between the mustard and the mayo this year off the tee and letting your irons and putter go to work, because that's how you can really win this golf tournament. But Sawgrass, Colonial, Sea Island, Innisbrook, Waialae, Sedgefield, TPC River Highlands. So those are the 7. I mean, I looked at short courses in general too, but those are really the 7 golf courses that fit into this bucket that I'm talking about, where they're very short off. They're short off the tee and devalue. They can't really be bomb and gouged and devalue elite power off the tee, but you just have so many freaking approach shots at these golf courses between 100 and 200 yards, right? They're not long iron intensive golf courses. They're short to middle iron golf courses, generally with small greens that are pretty straightforward and flat, right? I mean, these greens do not have a tremendous amount of internal contouring and a bunch of giant undulations. Like, they're just too small. They're very small targets, and this is the most obvious example of target golf, right? Pete Dye is basically giving you the answers to the test and saying, it's really that simple. Hit it here, hit it here. And if you can't execute on that level, then you're not going to have much of a chance, because this tournament is generally won by the player that is best between 100 and 200 yards on approach, and the best putter from 5 to 15 feet, because you're going to have a lot of birdie opportunities on this golf course. And it is absolutely essential to capitalize on those 5 to 15 footers, because that's the other way to separate oneself at Harbour Town. And you look at the last 5 years, I mean, off the tee and putting are both around 3.3 compared to for top 10 finishers, and that's basically double what off the tee and around the green are. I was looking at this. I thought this was interesting. In terms of those 7 comp courses that I laid out, the top 10 players across the last 4 years, 4 to 5 years on those comp courses: Scheffler, Henley. Love Henley this week. I thought he was a very easy fade at that ownership last week at the Masters. I will be going right back to Russell Henley this week, coming off a miscut. Scheffler, Henley, JT. So hard for me to do, man. But theoretically, this is a very good golf course for JT's shot making ability. I think it's going to force him to take driver out of his hands and just position himself in the right spots in the fairway. But it's visually, I think it's a golf course that should, in theory, bring the best out in Justin Thomas. And he finished 5th last year. I had a really good DFS week at the Heritage last year. And I remember it all coming down to a low owned JT finishing T5. Corey Connors, number 4. Victor Hovland, number 5. Hovland's really interesting to me at the Heritage. We could talk about, I mean, because I thought he has looked pretty good through 3 rounds thus far at Augusta. Number 6, Xander. Number 7, Keegan. Oof, Keegan, just another major Masters disappointment. Number 8, Patrick Cantlay. What the fuck do you do with this guy anymore? What the fuck do you do with him? He's got the best course history in this field by a healthy margin. He's played here 7 times and he has 1 missed cut and 6 top 6 finishes. I've bet him at this golf tournament each of the last 3 years. And I also bet Cantlay at the Masters. I had a future on him from December, and Cantlay at the Valera Texas Open. So can I go back to Patrick freaking Cantlay for the 3rd week in a row? When all, just like JT, he continues to show me that he can not put 4 good rounds of golf together over a 2+ year sample size. That's going to be an interesting decision for me because I cannot argue with the course history at all. I would not say that this is like has the highest correlation of course history on the PGA Tour. Like it's not Valero in terms of how much course history matters, but there are some strategic decisions off the tee. You don't often see a first-time winner come here and show up and win the golf tournament if they've never seen the golf course before. But I thought that was interesting. You know, the names at those golf courses are everything that you would expect, but something like um, a Hovland, Keegan, Tommy Fleetwood's number 10, Brian Harmon's number 11. I think it all checks out in my brain as well. So the top 20 in my model this week, the overall model: Scheffler, Morikawa, Henley, JT, Cantlay. I mean, that's the top 5 that you would probably expect. I should mention also Hideki and Rory apparently not in the field. So right now we only have a field of 71 players with no cut. Pretty lame, man. Like I would just invite 100 and do the top 50 in ties heading into the weekend. This golf course and this town in Hilton Head has had the ability to host a tournament with 156 players in the field. So I don't want to hear any bullshit about the golf course does not have the resources to host more players. I get the daylight thing too, trying to get everyone in. But you know, so it's 70 guys with no cut. So top 5, very expected. 6, Shane Lowry. That was a good bet this week. I bet Shane Lowry at 45 to 1 to win the Masters. He's not winning shit, but he was right there for a while yesterday before Rory did his thing. 7, Sepp Straka. I thought that he was the worst play on the slate last week, and I will do it now. Like this is a perfect golf course for Straka. I was on him last year. He finished top 5. He finished top 5 twice here now. 2 out of the last 5 years, he's finished top 5. It's just a perfect golf course for Sepp Straka's skill set. Great driving golf course for him. 8, Tommy Fleetwood. 9, Bud Cauley. What do I do with Bud Cauley? Bud Cauley has now finished top 6 in 3 straight tournaments, including 2 out of the 3 tournaments being golf courses that in many ways have a lot in common, both architecturally, stylistically, and agronomically with Heritage. Okay. And I have been on Bud Cauley for each of the last 2 weeks at Valero and Valspar, where he finished he finished I think T4, T2, and T6, and even had a share of the lead. He was the clubhouse leader at both of those tournaments on Sunday before obviously the leaders went out and won the thing. 50% of my brain is saying, okay, this is the perfect Bud Cauley sell spot. You got as much out of Bud Cauley as you could possibly have bargained for. He's been a top 20 machine for you. Or, you know, it's still going up and Bud Cauley is on the precipice of getting his first his I don't think this is his first PGA Tour victory, but his first PGA Tour victory in a very long time. And it's just something that you have to ride if you've been on him until the wheels fall off. I think I probably have to keep betting Bud Cauley at this specific golf course. Like if Bud Cauley was going to a different golf course, but this golf course, he's played well at the pass. It's such a perfect fit for his game. You know, he's not going to be behind the 8 ball here because of his lack of distance. The 5th at Valero, he gained 4.5 on approach, 2.3 off the tee, 1 around the green, and 2.2 putting. He's just doing it in such a sustainable way. He's just playing rock solid golf at the moment. There's no major flaws in his game. He's putting above field average. He's chipping above field average. He's driving above field average. And he's a great short to middle iron player. Number 10 is Corey Connors. That was the good chalk at the Masters. You wanted to avoid the Bobby Mack, the Russell Henley, the Sepp Straka. Corey Connors was the good chalk at the Masters. He was in the pool, but he's actually not in the 6 of 6 lineups that I really need to root for. So I hope Corey Connors struggles today personally. Brian Harman, 11, Daniel Berger, 12. That's another guy with Daniel Berger. He's playing great at the Masters too. Do I just keep riding the Daniel Berger train until the wheels fall off? I've been on him a ton, and he basically finishes between 20th and 30th place every single week, but continuing to do it in a very, very sustainable way. You know, he's gaining basically now in all 4 major categories. He's a really, really accurate driver of the golf ball and has been driving the golf ball very straight, really good short game, starting to improve on the greens. I mean, he's been putting a lot better too. And it's a phenomenal golf course for him. I mean, he's played well here in the past. If you think about what are the perfect Daniel Berger golf courses, like it's all of these Heritage, Waialae, Colonial. Colonial is a very strong comp in terms of stylistically how that golf course plays off the tee, and how driving at Colonial is essentially just you need to position yourself in the right spot of the fairway, but how you win that tournament is with your approach, play, and putting. So 12 Berger, 13 Siwoo Kim. I think I'm going to go back to Siwoo Kim, even though he missed the cut for me at the Valero. That was super disappointing. I thought Siwoo was a sneaky, awesome play at the Valero, and he was not. But I have short-term memory loss, and I'm not a blacklist guy. And there are a lot of things that I think are working very strongly in Siwoo Kim's favor. I like the fact that he didn't play the Masters this past week, and he doesn't have to deal with the emotional letdown of how crazy that golf tournament and that week is at the Masters. So I will probably be betting at least 2 guys in this field that did not play the Masters, and it's probably going to be Bud Cauley and Siwoo Kim. 14, Lucas Glover. 15, Xander Schauffele. Some of the recent numbers with Xander aren't great coming back from injury, but this guy's revving up, man. I mean, even when I include the Masters numbers into the model, like I expect him to shoot up higher. I don't think it's the Heritage is the perfect golf course for Xander on paper. I actually really like him on big, long, driver-heavy golf courses, but he's played okay here in the past. He's a former top 5 finish here. Number 16, JT Poston. Shout out Tom and Marty's. I'm with you, man. I couldn't script a better golf course for JT Poston, and the course history completely backs that up. Let's hope that he struggles on Sunday today at the Masters and goes quietly into the night with like a T42 finish. And maybe you'll be able to catch a pretty healthy number on Posty this week. The problem is, it's such a small field. Like, I don't know if they're going to add more players to the field, but because there's only 71 players currently in the field, do not expect really great odds this coming week. 17 Keegan, 18 Ludwig, 19 JJ Spawn, 20 Victor Hovland. So I think my early leans as it stands now, I think Scotty is going to win this year soon. I'm very curious to see if we start getting Scotty 7-1s. It's not going to happen next week, obviously, at the Heritage, but I think Scotty is going to win very soon, like in the next 1 to 3 starts that he has. Obviously, Heritage is a great golf course for his shot making ability, right? I don't think it's the best golf course for Scotty Scheffler. I actually think his long iron advantage and his ability to drive it long and straight, on golf courses where there's a higher miss fairway penalty, like he's a better fit at Bay Hill and even TPC Sawgrass, because TPC Sawgrass has a much higher miss fairway penalty and it emphasizes driving accuracy more than it does here. But obviously, if Scotty Scheffler plays great at TPC Sawgrass and loves TPC Sawgrass, this is going to be a very comfortable spot for him as well. And he proved that last year. So I'm very curious to see what the Scotty number is, but I would not be ringing any alarm bells about Scotty's state of play right now. This past week is going to be a really big ass. There's a reason why only Jack Nicklaus in the history of the Masters has won 3 out of 4 years. Okay. It's a really big ask. And I think he's obviously not the hottest of takes over here. But I would consider looking at what that betting number is for Scotty, because I do think a win is coming for him soon. My real early leans, as I mentioned, Bud Cauley and Siwoo Kim and Daniel Berger. Just 3 guys that I have been on a ton. And then we get to the difficult question for me between Morikawa, JT, Cantlay, Lowry at the top. Those are guys that I have been betting a lot this year. Cantlay and Lowry particularly. I've been on Cantlay and Lowry a lot. JT now I've bet him 3 times this year, which I'm like kind of embarrassed about. I wish that you could erase that from my record. But I think it's probably going to be Berger, Siwoo, Bud Cauley. And then we'll see the move to be made at the top, whether it's Morikawa, JT, Cantlay, Straka, Lowry, Henley. All those are in consideration for me. That will do it for the show. Good luck with your bets today. Good luck, Rory McIlroy. I truly hope that you cross the finish line today. And if not, we'll talk about that too. But thanks for all of the support Masters Week. Obviously, if this course breakdown helped you at all, it means a lot. If you could just hit that thumbs up button, retweet the show on Twitter. If it helped you at all, tell a friend. All of that stuff means more to me than you know. So enjoy the Masters this afternoon, and we will see you back on this podcast feed later this evening. Cheers.